gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning back into the Zim Geek channel. I deeply appreciate you being here. I know it's been a couple months since I've added any content. I've been pretty busy, which we'll get to in a minute. But before we do that, I gotta tell you, I really don't want to talk about Carol Danvers. I know I promised I would 2 videos back, that there were some final thoughts that I had about Captain Marvel and the way Marvel Comics is currently treating that name, but they've always disrespected that name. And Captain Marvel has always been disrespected ever since it left the hands of Fawcett Publications. The main reason I did those 3 videos about the history of Captain Marvel was to really point out some of the craziness that happens in this comic book industry, especially in the mainstream, as they fight and bicker over names and copyrights, is all in a fight to make money. Well, all of that's kind of shifted in the last, say, 5 to 10 years, as Marvel, as a comics group, really don't care about how much money they're making, as you can tell by their ever-dropping, constantly dwindling sales. I still hold up to my 7th video about the Captain Marvel movie. It wasn't nearly as bad as everyone thought it was. Brie Larson did an okay job. I thought that her part in Endgame was even more sketchier than the Captain Marvel movie as they were fleshing out the character. But, you know, what can you do? Seriously, what can you do? If someone were to start a petition begging Bob Iger from Disney Corporation to pay more attention to Marvel as a publishing house and to try to make it make money and entertain fans as opposed to just making IP property for potential future movies, I'd be the first one there to sign it. Because, well, the art form is really suffering through the mainstream with all of this garbage that's out there and the lack of decent, entertaining comic books. I think Disney is going to really pay for that in the long run. And like a lot of folks already have stated, let's see what the second Captain Marvel movie does. I don't think they're going to pull down $1 billion. Do you? I'm not one of those Brie Larson haters. She did fine. She's a good enough actress for the role. I mean, what do you have to do? Stand there, pretend you're shooting this, say this line. Well, she did okay. And when it comes to Marvel Comics as a publishing house, Captain Marvel is just but one of many other titles that they're constantly trying to shove down the throats of the comic readers using the same, I can't even call them talent, using the same people that they had on the books before. People who don't know how to spell, can't tell a proper comic story, have no idea what a sequential art structure is supposed to be about. And the truly sad thing is that the people up there at Marvel Comics really don't care what their numbers are. They don't care about the direct market. They've already made their excuses. The direct market is mostly comic shops run by misogynistic old men, and we didn't write these comics for you. They'd rather sell them to libraries, or they'd rather wholesale them out to Ollie's for us to all be able to go out and buy for $2.99 for a graphic novel. Whoopee. And anybody that complains, any longtime comic readers who will say, for example, myself, who was raised reading comics, loving comics, enjoying comics, want to complain or raise any type of an argument, we're told that, well, we're just anti-feminists, or we didn't write these comics for you, or you just need to shut up and go away. Or they go through and label a number of these critics as misogynistic bigots and Nazis. Really? Just for not liking your funny books or pointing out that you really don't have any talent and shouldn't be in this industry? You really want to call these people Nazis? Really? Well, I think it's kind of interesting that these people that you have vilified and chased off of the industry have decided to turn around and start their own crowdfunding campaigns and are currently making millions doing products that they want to read, that other people obviously want to read, or they wouldn't be spending the money on them that they're spending. Hope you're happy. As for myself, I stopped reading the mainstream books quite a few years ago, back when Bill Jemas was running Marvel and things were really going into the crapper. That doesn't mean I stopped loving comics. It doesn't mean I stopped reading comics. I just stopped reading the mainstream stuff because it wasn't entertaining anymore. I didn't get back into it until a buddy of mine started telling me about all of these different sites online that were actually criticizing the comics for the lack of talent that they had. And at that time, all I could think of was,
welcome to the party, pal!
So yeah, looking over Carol Danvers, it's really not much to talk about. I mean, if you look at her history and the fact that every writer that comes on seems to write her differently and have her do all sorts of different things, and, well, everything that's happened to her, the ups and the downs have been so extreme. All I can say is that my relationship with Marvel is pretty close to the same way, only right now, it's pretty damn down. For most of their existence, comics were always designed to hit what was perceived as the largest audience possible. It's just when the 80s started, the direct market came in, that market got narrowed way down to a very thin demographic, mostly male, mostly white, mostly 25 to 50. And it's taking them this long to actually try to diversify, but they have been diversifying. In fact, they've been diversifying long before Marvel decided that they had to bring in other voices, or, well, let's quite call it what it is, non-talented so-called writers, to try to work on their books. And comics should be written by a large variety of people, absolutely. Diversity and inclusiveness is really the key, and especially to future and long-lasting sales. But the talent that comes in has got to have the ability to do and make good, entertaining comic stories that people, as many people as possible, want to actually read and follow. Marvel's built on characters that people care about and love, and storylines that are indelible, like modern mythology. But the comic industry also has a history of nepotism and buddy-buddy networks and working with, frankly, hacks that are just there in order to get a paycheck. And sadly, that part of the business has to be outgrown a lot more than just pointing your finger at somebody who's pointing out the inadequacies in the industry and proclaiming them bigots, misogynists, and Nazis. And the same goes for DC as well, and all of the so-called mainstream companies, though all of the mainstreams lately seem to be knocking down numbers that the independents used to do back in the 80s. That means you have to go out there and start looking for actually talented people and building relationships. And believe me, despite what Dan Didio wants to say, that there's no talent left out there to do proper quality level of comics, those people are out there. You just have to go find them. And they're all over the world. And they're begging to do sequential art, especially playing in the playground that Marvel and DC have available. You just have to look. And if these guys aren't going to listen, there's plenty of other people out there that will. And it's obvious if you've looked at any of these crowdfunding campaigns that there is plenty of money out there in that market for good, entertaining works. People are desperately looking to be entertained from sequential art as quality and as cheaply as they can possibly get it. We just have to provide it. And again, leaning back on personal experience, I've been producing a comic newspaper that I've been circulating throughout my county for the last decade. We've gone through an entire 100 issues, completely advertiser-supported, free to readers, and the only reason I stopped it was because I wasn't really making money at it, and I thought my reach can go out even farther, especially now with the influence of these crowdfunding campaigns. So I can personally tell you, everybody loves reading comics. Well, almost everybody. You're always going to run into those people, those trolls and those angry people who don't care about the medium. But the majority of the people out there want to be entertained any way possible, and sequential art is definitely a part and can be a bigger part of that entertainment. So in upcoming videos in this channel, I really want to discuss the many different ways that we can influence and promote sequential art out to the masses, to the larger audience, because that audience is out there, and they're willing to spend money. We just have to convince them to spend it our way. And the way we do that is quality, opportunity, and yes, of course, diversity and inclusiveness. Money is green, no matter who it comes from. And to be out there excluding people or groups or isms or whatever is just purely horribly bad business. But we'll talk a lot more about that really, really soon. I promise to kick out more videos more often than I have been, and really apologize for being gone for the last couple months. But there's been a lot of things that I've done, and a lot of things more things that I need to discuss and talk to you about. So yeah, I don't want to talk about Carol Danvers. I mean, I realize that she was redesigned as Captain Marvel in order to be the masthead and to use that Captain Marvel name and secure that crazy copyright. And really, if you really look at it, she really stands as a horrible metaphor for everything that's wrong about not just Marvel, but the entire industry in general. Sequential art, comics are an amazing art form, a combination of words and pictures, and a form of entertainment that, to me especially, is pretty unmatched and well worth the time to give a little attention to and focus some positivity on in order to make better. And I hope you feel the same way, and I'll hope you'll come along with me as we do that, or try our best to do that. If you have some constructive suggestions on how to better this art form, please feel free to leave me a comment. Also, please subscribe and like this video if you were happy with what I said. And come back and join me again when I post another video. I promise it won't be 2 months again. My next video is going to be a cartooning instructional video on how to draw a character. And then after that, we'll get right back into this and explore a little bit more, hopefully a little bit more positively, the different aspects of this wonderful art that we all call comics.
Harry, what is it?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Huh?